Close your eyes for a second and imagine the most photographed couple in the world suddenly starring in a mystery no publicist can tidy up. A drama composed of hospital files, alleged hush agreements, and a woman who claims she carried the royal children while the Duchess posed for glossy, perfectly lit photos. Tonight, Samantha Markle and a woman identified only as DL have stepped forward with explosive accusations that, if true, would rewrite the story the Sussexes have sold to the world. This isn't idle tabloid chatter. The allegations are vivid, specific, and delivered with documents whispered about in back rooms. The real shock? The silence from the Sussex camp. No direct denials, only legal letters, and a vacuum of answers big enough for rumor to rush right in. Stay with us, because what looks at first like family drama could be a constitutional headache, a PR nightmare, and a heartbreak for two children caught in the crossfire. Let's place the pieces. Meghan Markle arrived in the royal orbit as an outsider with Hollywood polish and a message: modernize, humanize, rewrite the rules. She and Prince Harry left the palace, traded gilded tradition for candid interviews and lucrative streaming deals, and built a brand around vulnerability, a brand that promised truth, authenticity, and an unvarnished voice. At the same time, a long-standing family rift simmered in public. A half-sister who felt ignored, media cycles that delighted in every fracture, and a palace machine that historically prized ritual and visible proof at certain moments. Hospital steps, christening images, and formal announcements. Where other royal births produced framed photographs and cheery public steps, Meghan's path often leaned toward privacy and controlled appearances. Choices that made sense to a couple who valued discretion, but also, in the minds of critics, created gaps for speculation. Into those gaps walked Samantha, outspoken, bitter, and ready to challenge the narrative, and then DL, a woman who allegedly claims she was silenced under agreement after carrying the children. These two threads, family claims and a startling surrogate narrative, have converged into one of the loudest rumor storms the royal world has seen in years. Now, the core allegation: Samantha Markle alleges that Meghan has rewritten her past, cut family members from her story, and curated an identity that fits the public brand rather than the messy truth. That part reads like resentful family fallout. The far more explosive claim, however, comes from a woman called DL who, according to the chorus of tabloids and social posts, surfaced with hospital bills, purported medical records, and allegations of an agreement that silenced her after she claims to have carried Meghan's children as a surrogate. DL's account, as circulated, paints a picture of recruitment meetings in California, closed-door contracts, isolation during pregnancy, and promises of privacy and compensation that allegedly dissolved into silence and suppression. If even fragments of that account were proven, they would transform the story from family acrimony into something that touches on lineage, legitimacy, and the rituals the monarchy depends on. Importantly, and we cannot say this enough, none of these explosive claims have been proven in a court of law. DL's claims, Samantha's words, and the papers being whispered about are all currently allegations. But allegations with details, dates, documents, and names have an uncanny way of forcing reactions, setting lawyers in motion, and changing public perception in ways that sometimes outlast facts. The reaction has been raw and fractured. On the defender's side, many supporters of the Sussexes call this the same old pattern: estranged relatives, recycled slams, and opportunistic outlets weaponizing family pain for clicks. They note the long history of hostile tabloid behavior toward Meghan and see Samantha's and DL's claims as part of that relentless campaign. On the other side, a swelling number of skeptics point to the unusual absence of public rituals surrounding the births. No hospital steps, no immediate cradle photos, timelines that sometimes read as tightly edited, and say those deviations invite questions. Influencers, talk shows, and pundits have rushed in, some with nuance, many without. Legal commentators say the Sussexes' legal team has been active behind the scenes, pushing letters to outlets and warning against amplification, and PR strategists tell us that in crisis management, a clean factual denial paired with evidence if available usually squelches rumor. The absence of that kind of direct rebuttal has, in the eyes of many observers, allowed the story to metastasize. Celebrities and public figures have largely stayed cautious. A few issue statements about privacy and mental health. Others stay silent to avoid becoming collateral damage. The net effect is a social media earthquake. Opinion spikes, poll numbers flicker, And a legend-built career based on authenticity now faces a sustained assault on its credibility. Dig under the headline and the details that make listeners lean forward appear: alleged backroom recruitment meetings in California, references to non-disclosure agreements with tight clauses and financial compensation, mentions of postpartum complications paid for by hush arrangements, and rumors of hospital paperwork that conflicts with public timelines. Conspiracy traffic has fixated on visual clues too, the way a coat hangs, a folding belly clip that online critics insist doesn't, look like a natural pregnancy, and separate photo shoots that appear curiously staged for certain angles. DL, as reported, is said to claim she offered to go on record and provide DNA tests, but legal barriers and contractual language allegedly complicated that route. NDAs are not in themselves criminal. They're common in celebrity negotiations. But where alleged non-disclosures touch on issues of lineage, legal experts say they can become a knotty problem. It's the texture of these lesser-known details: medical bills, whispered clinic names, alleged hotel addresses, precise compensation figures, that gives the rumor mill fuel, because details make conjecture feel credible, even before verification arrives. We put these claims to PR veterans, royal historians, and a discreet legal analyst, quoted here in paraphrase because our sources asked for anonymity. PR veterans say the same truth. If you have proof, release it swiftly. Silence only extends the story. A royal historian reminds us that certain rituals, like the hospital steps, function as social proof for dynastic continuity. Deviations from ritual invite questions about transparency. A legal analyst emphasized that while NDAs can be enforceable, they cannot be legally used to rewrite or obscure facts that bear on constitutional process. However, private contracts can make public proof more complex to obtain. None of these insiders accuse the Sussexes of criminality. Rather, they warned that perception is now a major commercial liability for a couple whose brand is monetized authenticity. That insider interpretation, blunt, slightly weary, and coldly strategic, explains why this story feels at once like gossip and like a real reputational risk. Let's be explicit about stakes. For Meghan and Harry, they built a lucrative post-royal career by selling candor and advocacy, a brand industry partners paid large sums to associate with. Allegations that call basic facts about parenthood into question could erode trust among platforms, partners, and philanthropic allies. For entertainment deals and speaking circuits, ambiguity around basic personal narrative matters. For the monarchy, even whispers about lineage can be combustible. Succession, legitimacy, and centuries of ritual lean on clarity. And even if the legal right to succeed is not immediately threatened, public trust is part of monarchy's fragile currency. Worst of all for everyone involved are the human costs. 2 children who did not choose the spotlight being discussed on a global stage, and a family splintered further by public accusation. That's why some insiders warn that the true damage isn't merely reputational, it's cultural and generational. This story echoes old royal dramas, but in the age of social media, it's amplified into something qualitatively different. Think of Princess Diana's open, heartbreaking moments that humanized the monarchy, or Kate's carefully choreographed hospital steps that soothed public nerves and confirmed lineage. Meghan intentionally broke from certain royal scripts to claim privacy. That choice became part of her identity. In past eras, palace mechanics would bury or manage scandal. Now, every rumor is digital, searchable, and storable forever. The result is a hybrid. The same bones as old royal suspicion, but with new organs. Influencers, viral clips, and evergreen playlists. That prolongs scandal. Put simply, if it's scandalous in private, it becomes an evergreen spectacle online. So where does this leave us, emotionally? With a knot in the stomach, because this is about more than headlines. Samantha's stinging charges read like a sister's wrecked trust. DL's alleged claims, if accurate, read like the story of a vulnerable woman silenced by contracts while the faces on magazine covers keep smiling. The palace's traditional insistence on decorum meets modern armies of skepticism, and the couple who once asked the world to believe their truth now face a blistering counter-narrative. The worst part, from a humane point of view, is the children, who are being used as proof, pawn, or spectacle in different versions of the story. Whether this becomes a legal case, a reputational catastrophe, or a long grinding saga of he said, she said, Only evidence will decide. But the emotional residue is immediate. People feel betrayed, some feel vindicated, and many more simply feel exhausted by another spectacle of privilege and accusation. As a final emotional note, if you find yourself wanting to root for truth, remember that extraordinary allegations demand extraordinary proof. Until that proof appears, the story will keep spinning, and the silence, loud, deliberate, and strategic, will continue to be read in too many ways. If you want part 2, a deep legal breakdown of what a DNA claim would really mean for succession, the practical limits of NDAs, and how palace protocol could handle this, drop part 2 in the comments and we'll assemble the receipts and legal context. Hit like if you think public figures owe the public certain clarifications about lineage and history, or hit dislike if you believe privacy should never be breached no matter the rumor. Subscribe to USA Pulses and ring the bell. This saga is far from over, and the next development could come from a court filing, an oral testimony, or an unexpected public statement. For now, we'll keep watching, skeptical and hungry for verified facts. Because in an era where images can be staged and narratives carefully curated, the only cure for rumor is evidence. And until evidence appears, we'll keep following this story with our eyes wide open.
For full video, click related link below or like and subscribe this channel.